I don't want a disgruntled star. I want one that's perfectly gruntled. Psychos and sickos unite for a perfectly gruntled edition. The PHNX Suns come to you live from Studio A in our new downtown office. I'm Eric Ruby. That's Stephen Rajon Garner. Perfectly gruntled. That's Gerald. Slightly gruntled. Gerald Bourget, that is. And of course, the Freckled Mamba, a.k.a. Juice Man, a.k.a. Ayrton. Maxed out as far as gruntling goes. Behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. But are you guys gruntled today? Let us know in the comments below, as of course you are the most important people here. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. 5-star reviews on audio go a long, long way. Once again, thank you all for all of your support on the show and for PHNX as a whole as we continue to settle into our new digs here. None of it is possible without all of you. And we're speaking of possibilities here on PHNX Suns because we're talking about, is it possible the Phoenix Suns can be a top destination, a top landing spot for the next disgruntled star or free agent to hit the open market? But first things first, how are we feeling today?
Fairly gruntled.
Fairly?
Yeah, fairly gruntled. Steven, how about you?
Doing great. It was a Tuesday. Very slow day on the NBA side. There's going to be a lot of these until training camp gets closer. So looking forward to talking more hypotheticals.
Would you say you're the most gruntled on the show?
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Anything is gruntable. Okay. Let's talk a little
Ayrton?
bit.
How's Ayrton doing?
Who cares? No, I'm kidding. Ayrton, I will say this. When I asked Ayrton yesterday if I was going to be alive in 2032, he never gave me an answer, and I didn't like that.
Okay.
Ayrton, I'm asking you again. Am I going to be alive in 2032?
Slept on it, thought about it a lot. You will be here in 2032. It's official.
But will you be here by the end of 2032 is the question.
We'll get back to you guys tomorrow.
But today we're going to talk about what the Suns need to do to put themselves in a position to get some of these big names we're going to be talking about today. We'll start off with some potential stars that might be requesting a trade in the next year or so, given their current situations. And then we'll take a look at the list of potential upcoming free agents for 2026, 2027, and 2028. Are we ready to get into it?
Let's do it.
All right, Steven, when I say the Suns need to do this to become a top destination in the NBA again, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
Starts internally first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Establish your culture, establish your identity, find pieces that align directly with that, and then you can start to look externally to build. But you can't do any of that stuff feasibly, no different than we talked about last season, without addressing things in-house first, second, third, fourth, and fifth.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. You have to establish all of those things. You have to kind of cement yourself as a young team that's heading in the right direction again, that another star will potentially want to play with. We know that guys like playing with Devin Booker. He's been able to attract Chris Paul, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Jimmy Butler wanted to play here as well. So like we know that attracting star talent is not an issue for Devin Booker, but you need a lot of these pieces that you have now to hit. You need Jordan Ott to establish himself as the type of coach that a lot of players want to play for and that stars will trust. You want Jalen Green to prove that he can be a fit with Devin Booker or a piece that another team would be interested in taking back in a trade. You need Mark Williams to stay healthy. You need the younger guys, the rookies, the second-year players to show like, give them a year or two and they're going to be in a really promising place. You need all of those stars to kind of align for more stars to look at Phoenix and say, it's not just a nice city to live in. It's not just a nice place. It's not just Devin Booker. I could actually potentially contribute to a championship caliber team here. And that does take time. And so it's not going to happen overnight, but over the next year, you can definitely start laying the groundwork for that in 2-3 years' time, maybe.
And while maybe we don't judge the Suns' success this season based purely off of wins and losses, it's hard-pressed to imagine a top-tier, top-flight star, some of the names that we'll be talking about today, will want to go to a team that at least isn't winning at a near 500 level, because stars aren't going to try to force their way to a place that they don't think they can win at, i.e. why Jimmy Butler wanted to come to Phoenix all last season was because he thought he had a pretty good chance of winning. And at the end of the day, why he approved a trade to Golden State, because he felt the same way. So let's take a look at, we've assembled 6 names here of potential stars that maybe just keep an eye on their situation. And let's start with one whose franchise is in a completely different spot than it was 3 to 4 months ago. That is Jaylen Brown. Obviously, Jaylen Brown and the Boston Celtics, 22.2 points per game, 5.8 rebounds per game, 4.5 assists per game, 52.9% from inside the arc, 32.4% from deep, 1.2 steals per game. Steven, not the best season from Jaylen Brown, and now going into this season where he's going to be the certified number 1 option on a team that most likely isn't going to be competing at the top of the East. Would you say that that's a situation that you're monitoring closely as to what does the future between Boston and Jaylen Brown look like?
I am, for sure, because there's only a select amount of players that are in this crop of guys that we're looking at that you could, in theory, this is not legitimate. This is just in theory. You could potentially poach away from their team. He very much fits that strikes that accord positionally. He's a fit in terms of his style of play. A star player that can play off the ball and not have any issues, but can very much take on the ball usage and help balance things out with Booker. A player that is really good, if not elite, on the defensive end of the floor with positional versatility. Can guard down, can guard up to 4s at times. He strikes all of those boxes and has championship experience to go with it.
Yeah, Brown would be a great fit next to Booker. I genuinely don't know what that relationship is going to look like in 1 or 2 years' time. I think Jason Tatum's injury and the step back that they've taken from a salary standpoint, from a competing for championship standpoint over the next year or so with the Porzingis trade, the Jrue Holiday trade, all of that kind of throws a wrench into it. So I kind of want to reevaluate in a year and see where everybody's at. But this is a big year for Jaylen Brown with Tatum out of the lineup because, we've even got people in the chat saying Booker for Jaylen Brown. No, that would be dumb. That would be a bad move. I love Jaylen Brown. He is not the offensive engine that you have in Devin Booker. That would be a really bad trade. And you don't trade for a Jaylen Brown unless it's to pair him with Booker, not straight up swapping.
Outlaw in the chat says his contract scares me. And I think in today's NBA with big numbers like that, it's easy to get scared. And I think that is one of the reasons why you might look at Boston as the main factor in why Jaylen Brown might get moved. New ownership, wanting to spend less. Who knows what Tatum post Achilles tear is going to be like. And maybe, like you said, in a year from now, if Jaylen Brown isn't performing up to that contract, they look to move Jaylen Brown. Maybe it's not him being disgruntled. Maybe it's them wanting to start a new chapter. But, Steven, there was a name that you brought up in...
Real quick.
Go ahead.
Real quick. How... Are they too much in the same tier for it to work for you all as a partnership at the top of a contending roster? Or is there enough of an alpha in Devin Booker to kind of spearhead things rather than them being mano-a-mano in a sense?
I think there is. I think, like we've said before, Booker can be the best player on a championship caliber team, but the other pieces have to be, you have less margin for error than you do if your best player is a Jokic or a Giannis or someone like that. I think you look at Boston and the title that they won, even like Tatum did not have a great playoff run the year that they won a title, but they had so much complementary accompanying talent. They had a system that worked that it didn't really matter. So I think you'd have to establish that kind of level of 1 through 5. We are stacked. We have a good bench. We have a good system for it to work. So your margin for error is a lot less. But I do think that Book can still be the best player on a championship team. And I think Jaylen Brown, he's already proven he can be the second best player on a championship team.
And I think positionally, there's not as much overlap there. Even though Jaylen Brown's offensive game, I guess some could say is kind of like Devin Booker. I don't see as much like that. But defensively, I see it as a fit for sure. I think that it could work. Maybe there are better options, but better options that might be attainable, I'm not sure. And maybe better options at the price, possibly.
Just asking because it feels like I might want to see somebody operate a little more on the other side of Devin Booker instead of like there is a little bit of overlap, but it's not like, oh my God, it's the same thing as Beal and Booker. Not even close to that.
Right.
Just feel like I might want to see that someone that operates in a little different of a capacity. But But I will say his defense would definitely help to balance things out for sure.
Yes, it would.
Well, we got a couple different names that operate in a different capacity. Let's start with Bam Adebayo. Asia Wilson does not come with him, even though it would make the deal a lot nicer, but 19.2 points per game, 9.7 rebounds per game, 3.8 assists per game, 51.5% from 2, 1.2 blocks per game, and 0.8 steals per game. Bam Adebayo is a very interesting one, Gerald, as far as a fit next to Devin Booker. Where do you see that, and where do you see him and his standing in Miami, as they never really try to tank?
Yeah, I genuinely don't know what Miami is doing these days, and it feels like it's got to reach a breaking point at some point in the near future. Like, Spoelstra's too good of a coach to have a bunch of teams that are barely playing. I don't know how you would have to make other trades before this to pull in the assets to pry a Bam Adebayo from a Miami, because they're not just going to give him away, even if he tries to force his way out. But in terms of how he would fit, that's one of the best defensive players in the NBA still. I know that his offense hasn't really taken that leap that we've kind of been hoping for, but he has made gradual improvements in some areas. And I think if he was playing with a player like Devin Booker, who's probably better than anyone he's had outside of Jimmy Butler so far, I think that would be a good pairing. I think defensively that would help solve a lot of issues that we've seen for the Suns since basically DeAndre Ayton left as well.
Yeah, my idea with even just starting a conversation with Bam, for one of the most unheralded players in the entire NBA, someone that should have a defensive player of the year under his belt already, has been a top 5 defender for quite some time now. Ayrton, if we could go ahead and get the Bam Adebayo graphic up. Just looking at him over the last 3 seasons, 2 top 5 defensive player of the year finishes, 2 All-Star appearances, 1 first-team defensive selection, 1 second-team defensive selection. For someone that has this kind of compilation of accolades, it feels like people don't react to his name in that ilk of players, especially defensively, in the ways that he should. Everyone is kind of obsessed with the double big thing, a big that can space it viably like Bam has shown to do the last 2 seasons, but also somebody that can cover all of the bases of Malawatch if you're looking at pairing him with Bam potentially down the line. That's the type of big that you need next to him to cover up for him, but also be able to operate in similar capacities as he does.
Yeah, I think that it's funny because we look at, what would Miami part with him? And you think about Miami's trade package for Kevin Durant, and it's like, okay, Pat Riley's just insane. But there's a different type of insane with another player that we're talking about, and that's with the Dallas Mavericks, Nico Harrison and Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, 24.7 points per game, 11.6 rebounds per game, 3.5 assists per game, 55.3% from 2, 2.2 blocks per game, 1.2 steals per game. By my money, the best player that we've talked about so far. Also by my money, the most injury-prone player we've talked about so far. Interesting enough with Dallas, they kind of have a 2 timelines thing going with Cooper Flag, and obviously in the post-Luka Doncic era, Gerald, an AD Devin Booker pairing would be potent and it would be impressive, but would the Suns have the type of assets that the Mavs would want, and would the Mavs want to move on from Anthony Davis, even though they still have some older players like a Kyrie, despite him being injured?
Anthony Davis is 32. He is probably the best fit for Devin Booker on both ends that we've talked about out of these 3 players so far. But by the time that he is someone that Dallas would be willing to move on from or to give up, because he was the main piece coming back in the Luka Doncic
The
trade.
only piece.
like it was him, Max Christie, and a first-round pick. And that's what they got for Luka freaking Doncic. So they are all in on this current team of Kyrie and AD, even though Kyrie's hurt this year. So I don't think you're trading for him in the next season. 2 seasons from now, maybe. But even by then, Anthony Davis is going to be 34. We know about his injury history. For me, it's just kind of a non-starter in terms of how long you'd have to wait for Dallas to make him available. How are you going to get the assets to pry him from Dallas when Dallas knows that it gave up Luka Doncic for this guy to compete for championships? It feels like one of those things that 2 years ago, if you'd asked me about it, I would have been all about it. Now there's just too many obstacles for me to see him as a realistic fit in multiple senses.
Yeah, I feel like the crown jewel for the Dallas Mavericks was getting the number 1 pick and scoring on Cooper Flag.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say that they're not valuing Anthony Davis, but I wonder how he aligns with the direction that they're heading going forward in terms of the collective age of the group. Is he going to be heavily involved in everything that it is they're looking to do 3 seasons from now? Is he kind of on the fringe? And I feel like these are the types of players that the Suns should be looking to get their ducks in a row to at least viably throw their hat in the chase for one of these types of players, because it's not that many that are going to be options for them in terms of facilitating trades the way they're set up right now.
Well, and realistically, like you mentioned, Gerald, some of these young guys are going to have to hit for the Suns because they don't have first-round picks to trade. And in this scenario, you're going to have to make a trade. We've got a couple other guys to keep an eye out for, plus free agents. So the Suns don't have to make a trade. And some big star names and some more underrated ones. And we're going to get to all of those after our first break. Hey, you. Looking for some gear to make your brand stand apart from the crowd? Well, might I introduce you to Branded Bills. I'm rocking Branded Bills right now. I'm pretty much always rocking Branded Bills because not only do they partner with ASU, not only do they partner with the Suns, which is like perfect for me, they also partner with PHNX, which is really perfect for me because I can wear our PHNX custom Branded Bills hat that you can get on our store, but you can get your own custom apparel with Branded Bills. Snapbacks, truckers, fitted, beanies, or tees, they have you covered with performance and style, and just like we are a local company, so are they. So go support Branded Bills and head to brandedbills.com. Use code BBPHNX. That's brandedbills.com, code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order. And make sure you write this down. October 31st through November 2nd, Gerald, it's championship weekend at Phoenix Raceway. We were able to go to Phoenix Raceway last year, and I don't know if you remember, Gerald, but it's beautiful.
It is.
It's a beautiful place, top 1 venue in the state to go watch any sporting experience. But of course, that's where NASCAR Championship Weekend happens. 4 champions crowned in just 3 days. And guess what? Here's the catch. NASCAR's taking championship weekend on the road starting in 2026. So this is your last chance to catch it here in the Valley for a while. So don't miss your chance to witness NASCAR Championship Weekend in person coming to Phoenix Raceway October 31st through November 2nd. Tickets for Sunday's Cup Series Championship race sell out every year. So move fast and get yours now before they're gone. It's your last chance to catch it in Phoenix for a while. So tickets, hospitalities, and upgrades all still available. Get yours now at the link in our show notes. Once again, thanks everybody for hanging out with us on a Tuesday afternoon. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. Let's keep it rolling with potential stars who want to make their way out. We started with one whose co-star was brutally, of course, taken out of the playoffs. Let's go to a second one whose franchises was also altered due to that very same thing. Pascal Siakam of the Indiana Pacers, 20.2 points per game, 6.9 rebounds per game, 3.4 assists per game, 56.8% from inside the arc, 38.9% from deep in 78 regular season games played this year. Obviously, Indiana 1 game away from winning an NBA championship, Steven. Pascal Siakam, a big part of that. I know you and I had kind of talked about he's a name to monitor as far as what does his future look like in Indiana and what is Indiana going to try to do without Miles Turner and without Tyrese for this year.
Yeah, Siakam is a winning player. I know people didn't look at him that way when he left the Toronto Raptors to ultimately end up with the Indiana Pacers a couple of seasons ago. But the trajectory of their roster and everything that their franchise has kind of invested to get to the finals literally skyrocketed once they got him. Push the pace, be super versatile defensively, bring that same versatility on the offensive end, knock down the 3 ball at a respectable clip, play with a certain level of IQ that sustains on the playoff level. That's the type of 4 the Suns should be looking for. Someone that is not a liability in any capacity on either end of the floor.
Yeah, if you're one of those people that looks at the 4 spot as the biggest area of need for the Suns and potential hypothetical fits, like Pascal Siakam should be near, if not at the top of your list in terms of guys that could be available in the next year or two. It would kind of depend on Hallie having like an injury setback of some sort, because I do think they take 1 year off, they try to restock that center position, and they try to make another run the following year. But if Halliburton isn't part of it, if he can't stay healthy, then maybe the calculus changes in terms of how you have to pivot, especially if, you know, Nembhard has a great season or something like that. So I think Siakam would be a great 2-way fit. He's a guy that we've talked about in the past with all the Siakam trade rumors as well. Would love him here in Phoenix. Again, like all these other guys that we're talking about, You need the young guys to hit. You need to turn them into additional picks somehow. You have to make moves to set yourself up to land a player like this. Because even in that worst case scenario where Halliburton can't stay healthy and they decide to blow it up or tweak it, like you still have to have assets to get these guys. They're not just going to give them away for free.
Out of all the names that we're talking about here in this segment about, who could ask for a trade? To me, Siakam is the most perfect balance. Again, admitting that most of these, if all of these are unrealistic, especially at this current time, but Siakam feels like the perfect balance of like what he could bring on the court, fit with Devin Booker, team is in flux, and he still is a winning player. And so I feel like with all of that, and plus I think the value for a Jaylen Brown, for a Bam Adebayo, even for an Anthony Davis, the two names we'll talk about after Pascal, whether you agree with it or not, I think those teams are going to ask for more than what Pascal would go for on the open market, because I think he is still an extremely underrated player. And the raw stats are good, but they're not like, 5 first-round pick good, even though he could be the second best player on a championship team. That's the one I'm the most intrigued by. That's the one I'm going to be watching the Pacers this season and wondering what that dynamic is going to look like. We'd be remiss if we didn't bring up Trae Young. We could look at Trae Young's stats here really quickly. Obviously, we spent a lot of time talking about him, so we don't need to dive into this too much, but 24.2 points per game, 47.4% field goal percentage, 11.6 assists per game, 1.2 steals per game, 34% from deep, 87.5% from the line, a league leading in assists per game. Trae Young still has not signed his contract extension with the Atlanta Hawks. Obviously, Flex from Jersey saying that's a situation to monitor. I think we're probably good on talking about Trae Young. I think we've done that enough. So let's also throw up the next guy here, Giannis. If you're talking about stars and potentially moving, hard not to talk about Giannis. 30.4 points per game, 11.9 rebounds per game, 6.5 assists per game, 62% from 2, 18.7 attempts. That's a league leader in 62% shooting on those attempts, 1.2 blocks per game. By far and away the least realistic as far as the Suns being able to land him, but out of all these names, there's been the most smoke about Giannis and Milwaukee.
Yeah, again, you're going to need a disastrous upcoming season. You're going to need the Suns to turn a lot of players into picks or younger players that Milwaukee would want. And you would need Giannis to basically tell Milwaukee it's Phoenix or nowhere else.
Yeah.
And that's and that is not, I'm not saying it's realistic, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that a star looks at Phoenix and wants to be there. Like Jimmy Butler tried to do the same thing. He failed. Bradley Beal had the no trade clause, so he was able to do the same thing. You would need Giannis to do that exact same thing to Milwaukee, say it's Phoenix or nowhere else. But a lot of players, Giannis would have that leverage. A lot of players that we're talking about maybe don't have that type of pull the same way.
I fear for Brooklyn still having some say-so in the Giannis of it all. If it does get to that inflection point where he opts out or he leverages another market in hopes of getting whatever it is he desires from the Milwaukee Bucks, Brooklyn's got a style picks. They got all types of ability to shift their roster at a moment's notice if and when need be. And they also have the big city dynamic that Giannis would likely be looking for. I feel like there's some overlap with Phoenix and Milwaukee in terms of market size, especially comparing to the top 3 cities, Chicago, New York, LA. He will probably want to go to New York in some capacity, and the Knicks are not a team that can get that done. So I would imagine Brooklyn has a lot of say-so in that. But this is why the Suns have to get their ducks in a row as much as they can to pounce on an opportunity should it present itself.
If it is Brooklyn, there's a chance that we get Michael Porter Jr. and Kyle Kuzma on the same team.
Oof.
Woo!
Oh, boy.
Maybe
Yikes.
it's a 3-team trade and Michael Porter Jr. or Kuzma ends up with the Suns.
Okay, well, enough of that. I will say this funny, honest story. I am like the voice guy for ASU law school graduations, and a couple of years ago when the Suns were playing the Nuggets in the playoffs, and Giannis was bounced by the Heat in the first round, randomly I look up at this ASU law school event, and Giannis walks in with his wife and his kids, and his family, and I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, that is Giannis Antentokounmp. Sits in the very back, and the student speaker for the event goes, I'll keep this short because I know we're all trying to watch the Suns beat the Nuggets tonight. And everybody starts cheering. In the back, Giannis goes, boo, like really loud. And his wife's like, shut up. And everybody turns around and looks at him. So maybe he doesn't want to come to Phoenix. But as unrealistic as Giannis is, most of those names are unrealistic simply because the Suns don't have the assets to attain them. So are they going to have to go in through free agency? What we're doing here is we're just going to do a little exercise. We're going to look at some stars and some role players for the next 3 off seasons, the next 3 summers, and talk about, are there any names that we're keeping our eye out for? Any names that would maybe be linked to Phoenix? And realistically, should the Suns be in play to be a big spender in the future? Gerald, let's start with 2026. Let's start with the stars.
Yeah, looking at the stars, it's a little bit more limited for next summer. LeBron James and KD are both unrestricted free agents.
Come home, KD.
Trae Young has a $49 million player option if he's not extended. James Harden has a $42.3 million player option. And then Kristaps Porzingis is an unrestricted free agent. So that whole Atlanta experiment, I like what they've done this summer, but it does have a limited window here to prove to everyone involved that it's going to work and that there should be a long-term commitment on both sides to both Young and Kristaps Porzingis. So
it's Bron.
I mean, yeah, I don't know about any of these names, to be honest with you.
Bron on the vet men.
Don't get your hopes up.
we
the guy who's never taken a pay cut.
We did that last summer. We're not doing it again.
Yeah, please don't get your hopes up. Yeah, this will be tough. They don't have the cap space to really go after any of these guys.
Mm-hmm.
So it would need to be likely a sign and trade situation. How realistic is that? I don't think it's realistic at all this soon. So probably just hitting the fast forward button on the 26 top tier stars in free agency.
Yeah, we've talked about this as well, that with Bradley Beal's dead salary playing in, that signing free agents outright, if free agents even make it that far, is hard to do. And most of these free agents don't make it to free agency. They re-up with their teams, they sign extensions early, or they force their way out with a trade. They use their imminent free agency as leverage to force a trade to a team that they want to join. So that's why we started with talking about stars that might be disgruntled and force their way out by trade, because a lot of times that is more common now than a star free agent picking a new market and that team actually having the cap space to sign them outright. And yes, I did say Booker for Brown was a bad trade, because it is a bad trade.
Yeah, boom shakalaka.
I know you want to trade Booker. That's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. That would be a bad trade. It's a bad trade.
Boom also thought that we were talking about trades when we didn't present a single trade and just said, these trades suck. Boom. Active listening. Let's get it together.
It's August. We don't need to be this angry in August. It's fine.
We don't need to be this angry. The boom shakalaka story. Kristaps Porzingis? Anybody?
I like him, but he has to prove that he can play more than 50, 55 games in a season. I think we all agree that like getting Booker a stretch big would be a good thing, especially if that stretch big can like block shots as well. But I don't know if you're going to be able to afford to sign him outright, if you're going to have the cap space for that. So, and if he's going to be healthy.
The basketball fit speaks for itself.
Yeah.
I think the Suns have had enough bouts with players that aren't available for the team, especially come playoff time. So that would be the dice you're rolling. And if he's not available, what are you using at the center position or even the power forward position that's going to help bridge that gap? If you don't have that type of depth, that's a risk that might not be worth the dice roll.
Imagine prime Malawach next to Kristaps Porzingis. Be kind of gross.
Yeah. If Malawach pans out, that would be...
Yeah, no. Porzingis feels like one of those moves where if the Suns were in a lot better of a position right now, that I would be all over that, because his impact when he's on the court is insane. But of course, when he's on the court,
they don't win the finals without him.
Yeah, 100%. We got some role players and more stars. Some people in the chat are saying we're waiting for the 2027 stars. Well, we're going to give them to you along with 2026 role players and all of that for 2028 as well. But we're going to do it right after our second break. Now, I love our new setup and I love our new Studio A, but I do miss being in Studio K presented by Circle K. Don't worry, we still have Studio K and it looks fantastic. Southwest Bias, the U of A show, they're all in Studio K, Cardinals, all that. It's a wonderful lineup for a wonderful studio, for a wonderful place. And make sure that you're in the inner circle. And if you are not in the inner circle right now, today is the day to sign up, because August 21st, that is 2 days from now, from 6 a.m. to 11:59 p.m., it is an inner circle fuel day. Usually you could save 5 cents off per gallon or 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. No. August 21st, once again, 6 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. All registered Inner Circle members that use their phone number at the pump receive 40 cents off per gallon at participating locations. That is a lot of money, so make sure, if you haven't already, to sign up for the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit circlek.com for more details. Here's the thing about APS is they don't have to do nice things. They don't. They can just exist. But they actually care about the community. They actually care about Arizona, and they actually care about getting your energy bill down, getting your energy costs down. That's why APS customers may be eligible for a smart thermostat for as low as $0 when you enroll in the APS Cool Rewards program. It's why they give you the time of use plan where you can adjust your thermostat based off of off-peak hours to save money. And it's why they want to remind you that nearly half of your energy costs come from cooling and heating. And with a smart thermostat, you can raise your your temperature when you're not home from any device. And for every degree you raise your thermostat, you could save up to 2 to 3% on your cooling costs. And once again, you might be eligible for smart thermostats for as low as $0 when you enroll in the APS Cool Rewards program. If you already have a smart thermostat at home like I do, see if it's eligible to enroll in Cool Rewards. Plus, free install is available at the link in our video description. Must be an APS customer. Pay shipping and taxes. Other restrictions apply. Go to marketplace.aps.com for more information. Leo says, watch for CJ and Rudy Gobert. Trade for both, please, Suns, to make @Eric happy. I want it on the record. I would not be happy if that happened.
Just one of those players.
Yes. And even then, no. But I am happy that all of you are here in a chat. Good turnout here on a Tuesday. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on audio, keep running. And, of course, leave us a 5-star review. We went through the stars, Gerald, of 2026 free agency. Lot longer list for the role players.
Yes, there is a lot longer list here, and I tried to keep it to guys that I like or think would be good fits for the Suns. Isaiah Hartenstein, he does have a $28.5 million team option. If the Thunder keep winning, they're probably going to pick that up. But they did just extend their big three, and that roster is going to get more and more expensive as some of these younger guys get their extensions or those extensions kick in. So something to keep an eye on if things somehow go south in OKC. Draymond Green has a $27.7 million player option. I can't imagine him finishing his career anywhere but Golden State. But if he winds up going the Klay Thompson route, something to keep an eye on, because I think even at this age, he's still a capable defender and would do wonders for the Suns at that 4 spot. Lou Dort, $18 million team option. PJ Washington is an unrestricted free agent, as is Mitchell Robinson, Robert Williams III, Coby White with the Bulls. Lonzo Ball has a $10 million team option in Cleveland. Devin Carter with the Kings. I don't know what they're going to do, but he's apparently been available for trade for some reason, so maybe they don't like him. I would love to take a flyer on a guy like that. Haywood Highsmith, who just got dumped by the Heat, is an unrestricted free agent. Larry Nance Jr., unrestricted free agent. Taurean Prince has a $3.8 million player option and would probably be pretty cheap. And then Bruce Brown, obviously he's back in Denver now, so maybe he stays there beyond just this upcoming season, but he'll also be an unrestricted free agent. So just some names that I would be keeping an eye on for next summer, because the player pool is not that great, honestly.
What's your thoughts about this group of players?
I think there are a lot of really good fits with a Devin Booker led team. I'm obviously a big Lou Dort guy because I'm an ASU guy, but I think Hartenstein, if you're taking from OKC, I think his passing, his floating, his connectivity as a center, if you don't like what you see out of Malawash or you don't want to bring Mark Williams back, I think he's an interesting name to watch. I could also play alongside bigs. Haywood Highsmith, I've always been a fan of, and I think that's somebody that you could probably get for the minimum, and we know the Suns are not going to be high spenders, and so if you could snag him, I think that would be a really fun fit as well. Taurean Prince was somebody we talked about this offseason if the Suns might be able to grab him. Maybe by next offseason he is a vet minimum guy, and that maybe is your piecemeal for if a Rasheer Fleming doesn't work out, or if your Dylan Brooks, Ryan Dunn isn't good enough to continue into next year. But honestly, more than all of them, if Devin Carter is available for some reason and you're able to get him, I'm really high on him. I don't know what the Kings are doing, so that's definitely somebody that I would be watching. What about you? What are the names that you like?
Naturally, Isaiah Hartenstein, because he is very much one of the most elite defensive anchors, and does it in the evolved version that does not consist of straight drop coverage and a big being latent to the rim protection area of the floor. He does everything defensively. Switch on guards 1 through 5, and everywhere in between. Rebounds well, finishes well, has the correct shot profile, even as a non-floor spacing 5, to do the things that you need to do to keep a team afloat, but also can do the evolved decision-making things as well. He would be a piece that drives things for the Suns in multiple ways. For everything that people have loved Zubac for, including me, Isaiah Hartenstein is the closest that you can get to replicating different capacities of that. He's not as big as Zoo, but he plays in a very similar fashion. Other name I would look out for on this list is I was looking at PJ Washington, because the roster context has shifted. They've added Cooper Flagg to Dallas in addition to Anthony Davis. What are his minutes looking like this upcoming season? What is his usage looking like? I imagine he's probably a piece that you can have opportunity at in free agency.
Yeah, I like PJ Washington. I don't know if the Suns would be able to afford him. I don't know if the Suns would be able to afford a couple of these guys on this list. They would have to clear out not max cap space for some of these guys, but considerable cap space to be able to win out in free agency. Like for a Hartenstein if his team option gets declined, or for Draymond, especially if he opts out of $28 million, you're going to have to be paying him at least around that amount, and things will have to have gone south for the Warriors. So more realistically, if it's tough, because Lonzo Ball, if he plays well, a $10 million team option makes sense for Cleveland to pick up. But I will be keeping an eye on that situation and how expensive their tax bill winds up looking, because he could be an interesting, for those of you that really want a more established point guard here in Phoenix, if he restores some of his value this year, he could be a guy that I would like to keep my eye on. And Devin Carter, obviously, if Sacramento does something stupid and turns down his team option,
yeah, insane,
jump all over that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a couple of interesting names here. Obviously, none as sexy as the Stars, especially the Stars in the summer of 2027. I mean, just an insane list of 2027 stars that could be hitting free agency, Gerald.
Yeah, and again, I don't think a lot of these guys will make it that far. I think Steph Curry, like, he'll probably re-up with Golden State. He'll finish his career a Warrior for life. Nikola Jokic and Giannis are guys that you'll want to keep an eye on. I think we all agree Denver's going to be one of the top 3 teams in the West this year. But if for whatever reason it goes south and Jokic somehow finally gets fed up with, not being on a contender, it doesn't seem like it's in his nature to kind of like force his way out. But you never know. He's got that $62.8 million player option. Same with Giannis in 2027. Same with Anthony Davis. Jimmy Butler's unrestricted. Karl Anthony Towns has a $61 million player option. Paul George, we threw him in there by reputation, honestly, but I think we all agree, even if he opts out, he's not really a guy you want to sign 2 years from now.
Give him the max.
Kawhi Leonard, Trae Young, James Harden, all unrestricted. Kyrie Irving, player option. Rudy Gobert, player option. Drew Holiday, player option. Julius Randle, Dejounte Murray, both have player options. Draymond Green. Bear in mind, these guys will all be 2 years older. So, like, Rudy Gobert, Drew Holiday, I've considered putting them on the role players list, because at that point in time, that might be what they are, as opposed to the stars that they are now. So any of those names jump out at you, Steven, as A, maybe semi-realistic, and B, would be good fits for the Suns?
Yeah, I think because you'll have more clarity for everything that is this season's sophomores and Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro. You can kind of look at names here and say, okay, if Ryan doesn't pan out the way that the Suns are hoping, at that point, maybe they could pivot to someone like Lou Dort. I think there's some opportunity there. Same thing goes for with Oso Ighodaro. If things don't pan out with him, you got pieces you can look at like Najee Marshall and things like that.
So for the Stars, would you say, I mean, all these guys are going to be older, Steven. Is there anybody that you think will be better in 2020, in the summer of 2027 than they are right now? And even then would the Suns even be able to get them?
I think would they be able to get them part is more relevant because I just don't think they can do it without a trade, and they just don't have the assets to do much of that right now.
I think maybe from that stars list, Dejounte Murray might be a guy. I think
Think
it's
his
hard
contract goes down.
Well, and that's the thing
It's
is,
hard to- well,
it's
if
going to
he
be a big
opts out-
2 years for him.
It is. It's a big 2 years for him, and it's on a very mismanaged roster that I don't know what the hell they're doing. So maybe his value, but if his value goes down, then picking up that $31 million player option might make more sense for him. So it's tough to project. Honestly, this list of stars is going to change. Like, we could do this again next summer, and the list might look different in terms of a younger player on the rise, kind of establishing themselves. 2 years from now, it'll definitely look different. Like, you might be wanting to look at some of these younger role players now who could be taking a leap in the next year or two, as guys that you want to heavily invest in, because most of these stars on this list, some of them will still be playing at superstar levels, but not all of them for sure.
Yeah, well, let's take a look at some of these role players, some that you were mentioning, Steven, some that, had options before would be unrestricted free agents in 2027, another long list, Gerald.
Yeah, Isaiah Hartenstein, Cam Johnson, DeAndre Hunter, all unrestricted free agents. Santi Aldama has a $17 million team option. I like Aldama. $17 million might be an interesting price point at that point. Lou Dort, unrestricted at that point. Bobby Portis has a player option. Aaron Nesmith, you don't know what the Pacers are going to do. He'll be unrestricted, and he's a good player. Lonzo Ball, unrestricted. Derek Jones Jr., Kyle Anderson, Najee Marshall, Goga Batadze, Kevon Looney, Jake LaRavia, Gershon Yabusele, who we were high on. Devin Carter has a team option if the Kings do pick up the next team option. Miles McBride, Torian Prince, Trendon Watford, Tumani Kamara, Andre Jackson Jr. And some of those younger names, like Tumani, we should note, they will be extension eligible for their rookie extension. They will probably get extended long before that ever happens.
Come home,
Tumani.
Come home, Tumani.
Would love Tumani.
Where you belong. Okay, it's always been Phoenix.
Yeah.
I think there are a couple of interesting names here. I think by 2027, I'm probably done on the Torian Prince experience, the Kevon Looney experience. I'm good on that. Bobby Portis is good. We'll see 2 years from now. Kai Anderson, 2 years from now, will not be able to hit a top speed of 5 miles per hour.
Can we do that now?
he's at 5.8. Honestly, man, I'm looking at this list. Yabusele is interesting. I think what he does in New York this year is going to be fascinating because were his stats inflated because of the situation that Philly was in. Come home, Cam Johnson as well. Sorry, buried the lead there. I love the Jake LaRavia fit next to Devin Booker. I'm unfortunately high on Jake LaRavia. Nobody's like calling my name. Because at that point, like, the injury concern with Cam Johnson too is like, and all the guys like a Tumani, even I think like Nesmith might be extended by that point. I think Hartenstein and Lou Dort might find contracts by that point. I'm not sure how many of these guys are actually going to be options.
Well, and it is worth noting we are 2 years out, so this is going to have some trial and error. Lou Dort's calling my name. That Thunder roster is going to get expensive. Someone's going to have to get squeezed at some point in time. If Lou Dort continues to play well, he might play himself into a situation where, it's not like a max contract, but it's sizable enough where another team would have no problem investing it. But the Thunder, like, they're going to be dealing with luxury tax bills for quite some time. And maybe he's important enough for them to learn from their mistakes with James Harden and Serge Ibaka and KD and Russell Westbrook. They've already learned from it this summer, clearly, by extending all three of their big three. But if Lou Dort's available, he's one of the number one guys on my list. To answer the question, not big money, but like most guys in the NBA now, if you're a starting caliber player and you're a good defensive wing, you're going to get a sizable contract. Like, just look at the starting caliber wings throughout the league, and especially one that helped them win a title. You're going to have to pay something. I don't want to pay him max money, but you're going to have to pay him significant money, especially as the cap continues to go up.
Yeah, similar to Lou Dort is Aaron Nesmith for me. Pacers have some dudes coming up over these next couple of seasons. One was post away in Miles Turner, so that takes one piece off of their board. They still have Siakam. They still have Tyrese Halliburton. Andrew Nembhard is going to be owed some money soon. Aaron Nesmith, clearly, as we showed from the graphic, is going to be owed some money soon. Where are they going to cut some corners at? Are they going to be in a space where they feel like they can just go with those 4 and that be their baseline and go forward with that? They still have to address the starting center room once they get back healthy. I don't know. I feel like Indiana might be a team that you could look at as an opportunity to potentially steal a high-level role player that has opportunity to punch up out of that class. I think by the time this summer league or by the time this offseason comes, Neesmith might be a significantly better player because his playoff showing again, they don't get to the finals without all of the things that he did on both ends of the floor.
There are really only a few guys here that you could look at and say they project to be a better player 2 years from now, and Neesmith falls into that. I do think it's going to be interesting to see where's the NBA at this point when it comes to contracts, because that middle class is going to continue to die. Because there are going to be guys who want that max contract, and when it comes to building a team, like look at the restricted free agents right now, the Josh Giddey, the Cam Thomas, the Jonathan Kumingas, like that's the NBA's middle class. Even if Cam Thomas doesn't think so, like that's the NBA's middle class. Like you're not stars, but you're damn good. But you are going to want about $10 million more than what teams are going to want to offer you. So I do wonder by this point, is that a better situation for those kind of guys, or does their value get put down even more, and maybe the level of player we're talking about the Suns can attain actually becomes more attainable and more of a level playing field in that middle ground? And Phoenix investing in the infrastructure, still having Devin Booker, hopefully hitting on some of these young guys and on Jordan Ott, becomes an attractive destination for a guy like I keep on looking at Tumani Kamara. It almost like hurts. I just can't like a Lou Dort. Maybe he's like, you know what? I only would get $5 million more in a worse situation. I like where Phoenix is, and I like their culture. Let me go there. I think it's going to be fascinating to see how the economy of the NBA plays out over the next 2 years, because it's already changed a ton, and these max contracts are only going to keep on getting more and more expensive.
Yeah, absolutely. And someone, just to clarify, when we're talking about the role players list, we're not talking about them as second options. Like I don't want to pay Lou Dort like a second option, nor do I see him as a second option. The role players guys are more so good fits for Phoenix that might be more realistic, as opposed to the stars that we kind of start each section with. So just wanted to clarify that.
Eric, Tumani Kamara or Ryan Dunn?
We'll be right back after our third break.
Sophie's choice.
Crazy.
Listen, it's not a hard choice when it comes to picking somebody to help you move. And that's why Two Men in a Truck, well, they were our choice here at PHNX, and they treated all of our gear like it was their own gear. And to be honest with you, man, we got some expensive stuff that we were moving, and they were so wonderful. They took care of it. And it wasn't just 2 men in a truck. We had 4 men in 2 trucks because we had a lot of stuff. They were punctual. They were on time. They took care of everything for a massive move, not a residential move, like a business move in an office, in small elevators and moving around. And we didn't lose anything. Nothing broke. Everything got here on time, all in one day. And that was all thanks to 2 men in a truck. But not only are they efficient, not only are they effective, they're also understanding that a move is a big opportunity for you. It's a new beginning and big things to come. And especially if you're moving states or you're moving cities, like, they want to help you out. So for your next move, visit 2menscottsdale.com. 2 Men in a Truck, the movers who care. And don't forget, they also have storage at 2 Men and a Truck. Also love our friends over at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. I was able to jump out this past weekend for the Straight Game podcast with Mike Bibby, Eddie House, Coach Ty Ellis, and Shaquille O'Neal. I saw Shaq in person. I learned what his favorite flavor of ice cream was, and I got to do it all at Gila River Resorts and Casinos Wild Horse Pass. But it's not just the Straight Game podcast that does events there. We here at PHNX also do Gila events, including next Thursday. It is going to be our fantasy draft and our PHNX Cardinals residency, a PHNX Cardinals live show at 4:30, PHNX Cardinals show just for those who are in attendance at 6, and then the overall PHNX fantasy draft. We're all going to be out there. It's going to be a fantastic time. Come by at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Go to gophnx.com/events to get your tickets for that event, and you do you. At Gila River Resorts and Casinos, visit playatgila.com for more details. All right. Sean says what happened to Jesse Jr., though, Eric, is he's still missing. That is the snake prop over on D-Banks, and that was not something that 2 Men in a Truck moved. That was something that somebody in our office moved, and I do believe that they might have lost him. Oh, no. So we're on the lookout, okay? First time we're trying to find snakes in the grass. Okay. We ready to keep going into 2028?
No, because you just ducked the whole question.
What question?
Toumani Camara or Ryan Dunn.
So 2028 free agent stars, another star-studded list. Toumani Camara. Gerald, big names.
Big names in 2028, potentially. Joel Embiid has a player option that year. If Giannis and Jokic are still with their teams and have not extended, they will be unrestricted free agents at that point. Luka Doncic has a player option that year. Bam Adebayo has a player option. Anthony Davis is unrestricted. Cat is unrestricted. Paul George, Pascal Siakam, Domantas Sabonis, all unrestricted. OG Anunoby has a $48 million player option. Kyrie Irving, Ja Morant, Zion, Darius Garland, all unrestricted. Jalen Brunson, player option. And then DeJounte Murray and Julius Randle, unrestricted. Again, 3 years from now, the list of stars will probably look different. There will probably be new names that we need to add to that list. There will probably be some names that we might need to pull down into the role players or out entirely, depending on how old or injured they are at that point. But since we are here in 2025 and cannot predict the future, this is our best attempt at stars that might be hitting free agency that summer. And again, we have to point out, most of these guys won't make it that far at all.
Let's play a game, Steven.
Depends.
Okay, Saul.
I'm going to go player by player, and you're going to tell me if you think they will be better or worse than they currently are in 2028. Joel Embiid.
Might not be playing.
Oh, damn.
Respectfully.
Start.
Respectfully.
He's not wrong, but
Yeah.
that's a tough start.
Respectfully. I mean that with the utmost respect.
Giannis.
Not likely.
Nikola Jokic.
Definitely not likely.
Luka Doncic.
Not happening.
You're talking about they're not going to be better than they are right now.
Oh,
That's
I'm talking
the
about
question.
I'm talking about available. Are they
No,
gonna
no,
be
I'm
better?
asking, are they going to be better?
Giannis will not be better than he is now.
Okay. Jokic.
Jokic will be the same dude that he is now.
Luka.
He'll be the same dude.
Bam.
Ben will be better.
Anthony Davis.
Anthony Davis will take a step back.
Karl Anthony Towns.
Cat will be up and down, so it depends on what. I think it's odd years he's better. So 28 will not be a year that he's up.
Okay. Paul George.
Down.
Pascal Siakam.
He'll get a little bit better.
You think he's going to get better by
He's gonna
2020?
get a
Okay.
little bit better, yeah.
Domantas Sabonis.
Down.
OG Anunoby.
Same.
Kyrie Irving.
A half step backwards.
Ja Morant.
Better.
Zion Williamson.
The biggest wild card on this list of names. So
Yeah,
much
he's
factors
also every
in.
other year.
I genuinely don't know.
He's
I'm
also
gonna say better.
I think
Okay.
I think he's good. He's healthy in the even years. So I think
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Oh no, 28, 29. So
Yeah.
no, that would be a bad year.
Darius Garland.
Better.
Jalen Brunson.
Probably about the same, if not a half step back from where he's at now.
DeJounte Murray.
Down.
Julius Randle.
Down.
Out of all of the names, we flashed that back up. Out of all of the names, 5 we project to be a little better. If not, I don't think anybody's going to be significantly better than they are right now. Most of those guys are either staying the same projection-wise or taking a step back. So like the NBA will be a completely different landscape by 2028. Think about the stars in 2022 versus 2025.
Yeah.
Nate, I answered his question. I slipped it in there, but I answered it. I'm not proud of it.
Right.
I imagine they're gonna look at that 4 position and try to address it by then. Hopefully Rasheer kind of carves out a niche with the team by then. That would be 2 years into his career. But I still think they want to find one of those kind of consistent guys at that position to potentially play with Marlo Watch or maybe replace Marlo Watch if things just haven't worked out by then.
Yeah. And I think the biggest takeaway from this entire exercise that I'm sure some people are going to say is pointless or fruitless or whatever is to point out that you need to draft and develop young talent. You need to draft and develop the next stars. You need to look at what the Thunder have done, what the Pacers have done, what all these well-rounded teams have done. They didn't go star hunting. They didn't sign a ton of star free agents or trade for them even. They developed guys. They traded for the right role players that fit what they were trying to do on both ends of the court, and they built it that way. So again, a lot of these stars that we're talking about are going to be worse by 2027, by 2028. You're probably not going to go that route given your lack of assets anyway. So they need to start hitting on a lot of these drafts. They need to start getting draft picks back so that they can continue to add to that talent. And they need to invest fully, which they have in the player development side for Ryan Dunn, Oso, Kaman Malawach, Rasheer Fleming, all these guys that they're very high on. Because if those guys don't hit, then you're in trouble in terms of building something that Devin Booker can compete with before his prime is over.
I think the other thing within that same process is nail your head coaching hire, which I feel like they've done.
Yeah.
That's the first step to kind of foundation layer of everything else after.
People talk about Booker in the chat. I think that's maybe the best way to end this episode is go back to the beginning. We talk about disgruntled stars that might be asking out or their situation looks meek. And, you know, I know right now, I would say all three of us, even all four of us, including the Juice Man, and correct me if I'm wrong, would say that like we're not worried about Devin Booker asking out this season or really anytime soon. But is there a world where 2-3 years from now, and we'll probably do a whole episode on this, where 2-3 years from now, we're looking back and it's like, hey, the Suns failed to meet the expectations of a player, a top 10 to 15 player in their prime, and now Devin Booker is on that list as far as a star who's going to be asking out.
Yeah, it's a valid question, and it's a valid question. I think by 2028, he might be a little bit worse, although it depends on whether you're comparing it to the Devin Booker we've seen at his best or the Devin Booker we got last year. He could be around the same. He could be slightly better, but I think most likely by age 32, he'll be starting to take a dip. So you're going to need a lot of these younger players around him to be good and to be able to carry the load from that so that it's not just Booker having to carry everybody else the entire time.
Yeah, guys' prime usually go about 28 to 32-ish years. Obviously, it fluctuates depending on what the type of player is and whatnot, but whether he's there or not, I imagine if he's with the Suns, he's going to be looking for them to either turn corners in their process and building a roster around them, whether that be internally and with external pieces, or if it's just external pieces kind of holding it down for the internal pieces to develop. By 28, they're going to have to make some decisions.
Yeah, I think as far as will Devin Booker ever request a trade out of Phoenix, I think they'd have to do something from an organizational standpoint that felt almost like disrespectful to him. And maybe that is not feeling the best team or being incompetent, which, you know, as much as we think, hey, this Jordan Ott hire, we like the guy, right? People are saying nothing but good things about him. We're fans of Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro, and everybody, including myself, was so high on draft night when they got Malawach and Brea and Fleming. It's like, at the end of the day, there have been plenty of situations and plenty of teams where you felt good about their offseason, you felt good about what they were doing, and then it just didn't work out. And then eventually the star player wants out because it's a lot easier when you're 26, 27, 28 to say, I'm going to spend my whole career with one franchise, and then you get to 30, 31, 32, 33, and you haven't won a ring. And maybe at that point, there are priorities that change because Devin Booker will likely have every record in the Suns' history book by that point. He already is the franchise all-time leading scorer. But at the end of the day, I do believe that there's an inherent desire from Devin Booker to be here for his entire career, and I think there's an equal desire from the Suns to keep him for his entire career. But, you know, situations change, and winning and or losing changes everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have to put yourself in position to be able to capitalize on whatever opportunity comes your way, because as much as we're talking about star caliber additions and how unrealistic it is right now, all it takes is one or two trades to recoup some of your draft assets. Like if Jalen Green has a phenomenal season and you turn that into 2 draft picks, or if a role player has a better season that pushes their value from 2 second-round picks to 1 first-round pick, that could change the cash that you have to work with in terms of trading with other teams. So you have to put yourself in as many positions to succeed as possible, both with internal development, with restocking your draft cupboard, with, you know, developing all of these younger guys so that you have the opportunity to cash in if a star becomes available, if free agency happens, whatever the case might be.
Well, that was a fun conversation. I enjoyed talking a little bit about everybody in the NBA and looking ahead to the next couple of off seasons, but you know where to get the best Phoenix Suns coverage and the best basketball coverage in the world. It is right here on PHNX Suns. So make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you are subscribed as well. Make sure you're following us on socials at PHNX_Suns. That is on Twitter and on Instagram as well. We're very active on both, including putting out our Mailbag Monday tweets so that you can ask questions and be a part of the show. We appreciate the Juice Man making these sexy graphics and all the magic happen behind the Mac. You can follow him at Freckled Mamba. You can follow Steven at StevenPG3. That's Steven with a PH because he balances us out. And you can follow Gerald at Gerald Bourgay. And of course, keep an eye out at GoPHNX.com for all of his wonderful and fantastic writing. You can follow me at ERIKRUBY. I did appreciate in today's show a lot less talk about me dying. Let's try to do it again tomorrow.
We all silly like the mayor.